Back again, this time with my buddy and fellow Facebook Airgun group moderator Ken and his Benjamin Trail NPXL1100. This is the 22 caliber Ultra Magnum, or as Kenny Corman, he called it, a Super Magnum, but whatever. Interesting on this older one, the stock color is darker than my NPXL725, which I bought last year. And also that the logo is on this side rather than over here as it is on mine. I don't know why they do that, I really don't. And again, being an NPXL, this is the top of the line nitro piston. And he lives in the desert states. And it's interesting, he told me this bronzish discoloration there came from the desert heat. Now I've seen, you know, like the old Winchesters and stuff like that, or the older air rifles where the bluing gets kind of worn down, charcoal color, pitted and whatever like that. This metal is in good condition except for a scratch, you know, a couple of scratches like that, and the edges around this part's threaded that holds this on, the shroud. I gotta figure out how to get that thing off. If not, I will have to hang it upside down, hang the action upside down to be able to blue and rinse and all of that stuff. So we'll see how that goes. Because the barrel is inside this shroud, and this part down to about here is a suppressor that's built into it. So he wasn't really concerned about this, but I'm going to re-blue it, polish that, you know, clean this off, polish the metal, and re-blue it. And hopefully that is steel. Because if that's aluminum, I'll have to buy some aluminum black. And they got brass black too, so for you Benjamin Sheridan types, that, you know, the 392s or whatever like that, you can polish that brass and use the Birchwood Casey brass black if you want that nice blued kind of finish that you guys know I'm good for. So anyway, I finally got the seal kit for this thing, which is just a piston seal and the breech seal that goes in here. The rest is just moly lube and polishing and crap like that. So we'll get to that in these videos and get this old girl fixed up for my buddy so he can get out there and shoot again. I'll tell you what, this stock seems deeper right through here than my newer one is. And this, the way they opened up this Cochise thumb hole here on mine's a little bit different. Mine's just a little bit leaner. This thing feels about as heavy as mine does with the 3 to 9 by 40 AO center point. And this doesn't have one. That's just a bulkier, heavier rifle. I think the stock is a little, through here is a little bulkier. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same. They just leaned it out a little bit. Shaving blade is always a good thing to a point. So we will get that one apart, cleaned up, and I don't think I have I got a dowel rod over there, but it's only like 3/8, maybe 7/8 of an inch tops. I need something I can use to hone. I can use to hone the inside of this tube with. Get a little crosshatch on there so that Everything seals nice and slides around the way it's supposed to. So without further ado, we'll get to it and get her done. Okay, and here we have the seals. They came from airgunseals.com in Australia. They're just a breech seal and a piston seal. That's it. So that part's pretty simple. And here we're taking this one screw out. Here, there's 3 screws you need to take out to get the stock off, and this is one of them. You need a pair of tweezers to pull that out and cock it at an angle to get it out of there. And here it is here. And it has some blue Loctite left on it. And you'll take out both of these screws and washers on the forestock end here. And one of the washers is missing, so I'll see if I can find some Parkerized washers to fit them things. That way I can replace it with something proper. And as usual, label a Ziploc bag to put the parts in. That way you don't lose stuff. That's just good all the way around. And here's the action with the barreled action with the stock removed. And the end of the action tube where the trigger is. You see a little bushing there to be pushed back down. It just slides over that. And turn it around, and I'm pointing at the little C-clip, retaining clip. You have to take off that little shaft right there. And I'm pointing at where I took it off. That's the end of the safety linkage. And there's the seal pick I used to get it out, get the retaining clip out with. And this is the tensioner spring. The bigger loop on the end faces towards the clip when they're all installed, which goes right here. The bigger loop goes where I'm pointing at, right there in that little hole there. And then the flatter loop on the front of the spring goes there on the anchor hole. And here we are unscrewing that bushing that the trigger screw went in, that in turn holds the trigger assembly into the bottom of the action. Just use a pair of pliers or a crescent wrench or something to get that out. And here it is with the little blue Loctite still visible on it. Something about HD makes it look like it's covered with rust, and it's just some of that stuff you can't even see with the naked eye. It's unbelievable. And here it is with the end cap unscrewed. It looks like what's left of some Teflon tape that got old and, you know, basically gone. And here's what the outside of the barrel, the action plug thing looks like. And what it looks like when with that plug removed, end cap, whatever you call it. And here's a closer shot of the trigger assembly. Little lever goes inside on that the slotted end of the like a strut retainer. And here we are using a right-angled seal pick to pull that cup out. That's a spacer on the back, and it acts as a cup for that little gas ram strut there. And something dripped on the lens here. I was wondering why the dumb autofocus didn't want to work. And now this is the back half of that safety linkage. You got to turn it straight up like that on that kind of oval-shaped flathead pin thing there in order to remove it. Just wiggle it up and down a little bit, and it'll just pop right off. I can only use one hand there because I'm using the camera with the other. And here's what it looks like removed from the action. Now this is where it gets tricky. There's a curved little odd-shaped flange on the bottom of that lever there. And you basically have to unscrew the barrel and turn it almost 90 degrees to get it out. Here's where I'm pointing at the barrel retainer screw where at the hinge point. That's why it's got sort of a bushing machined into it. here it is after I've turned it not quite 90 degrees to remove it from that round hole you see right there, which puts that little odd shaped flange behind the piston head where the seal is. And here we have where we just use a small screwdriver to just slide it straight out the back of the action tube. And here's a shot of the seal. It's old. You can see it's old. It's just starting to get tore up a little bit on the leading edge there. Not bad, but not still working pretty good, but not sealing as good as it might. And here it is removed. You can see the tapered seal land there. And also this is the top edge of the seal that faces forward when you reinsert it. This is the bottom of the seal that faces the piston. So you can see this thing is just starting to get some age on it. Workable, but not as good as it might be. So, and here's a couple of shots of the stock as it looks the way I removed it. I'm going to give it a good coat of oil and let it sit for 24 hours just to shine it up a little better. And here's the number 95 marks with a black magic marker on the inside of the forestock. It's a Benjamin stock, so it's not a hot sound number. I don't know. And here's the haul from Harbor Freight Tools up on the corner where the old Sears Tool Center used to be on Detroit and Abbey. And here's a 158-piece assortment. They call them wire connectors, but it's an electrical nut. And they're all color coded to different sizes for different gauges of wire. And the red one there is the largest one, and that's the one that equals the diameter of that seal land on the end of the piston. But that collar on top of that smooth part's going to cause trouble. Interesting turn of events here. The bottom of this red electrical nut or wire connector fits the diameter right here on this thing. But you see how I ground that down? Because right at the tip of my finger there's a collar, which is just a hair bigger than the inside diameter of that seal right there, okay? So I had to take the larger drum sander on my Dremel, the drum sander right there, to cut that upper collar off there, make a nice little taper on it, trim it down with a razor knife, and then smear it with some of this 30-weight silicone oil right there. And then I tried to line it up and hit it with my tap hammer there and a socket. Let me show you here. It fits the inside part of that seal. You see how that seal's got an inner and outer piece like? Well, this fits the inner part. Okay. Wouldn't work. You can't hold it. You can't hold that straight enough unless you've got a piece of tubing that goes over this and can be necked down to the size of this 17mm socket here, which is a 6-point, by the way. It just barely fits with a little slop over this part right here to basically hammer it home. Well, that didn't work, but it did push the socket and these two here and the tap hammer did push it down from here to about there, not quite halfway around, but about a third of the way. It's down there real nice. I'm like, oh baby. About a 6, I guess that's a 6-inch Craftsman U.S. standard screwdriver, flat blade in other words. Okay. And I held it down with my thumb right here and pried it down around here, here, and here. Just a little bit at a time, so I pried it down and boom, I got it. So it's a combination of methods, folks. You don't use 2 screwdrivers, but you do cut that upper collar and make a nice taper on the red-coated electrical nut. And you put this on there and tap it with the socket till you get it down, right down towards the end with a little bit of the red thing sticking out. And then you use this and a tap hammer there to get it started about a third of the way around here. And then you use the screwdriver to pry like Let me get back here a little bit. To get in there and pry it like that. It'll give a little bit, but it's pretty hard. You do it just right and it pops on there, and now you can turn it with your fingers to screw it down all the way. Not like it's got threads or anything, but you still have to turn it around to get it bottomed out on this thing. Okay, so that is how you get the seal on. That thing's blued inside and out too, incidentally. That was interesting. But I ever get a metal lathe, this is going to be a separate part with a real shallow hole in there, maybe to and a threaded shaft on the other side that goes into a hole in here with blue Loctite, so you don't have to kill yourself getting that seal on there. Just crank it down real tight. You get it back together, and all the heat from compression of the air will help cure the Loctite, which will be sealed, from the center of the shaft that goes down in here, so the oil don't get to it, and bam, that should be fine. Just use one of these bigger hex keys here, hex key wrenches, to crank it down. That's what I want to make. Get me a metal lathe and I'll make custom chrome Miley pistons for these things. That's my thoughts, and that's how you get the seal on the piston that nobody shows you. And just to reiterate that on the upper part of that smooth bottom taper is the collar I'm talking about. You have to cut off. Here's what it looks like after I did it with the Dremel and a razor knife. You have to do that to get the bottom tighter, smaller diameter of the seal to go over that and into place, like I've described. And here is the seal, another angle of view to show you that it's in perfect condition. It's not chewed up or nothing. It's all well and good and ready to rock and roll. Oh, and the little red tool there I made fits that little hole next to the little holes for the spray cans and stuff on the Tipton gun butler, or whatever you call it. Okay, well, hope you guys got something out of that. And my combination of the methods that were explained to me or shown to me in a linked page somebody posted, so that I can get this piston seal on this Benjamin Trail piston. Got some weight to it. That's a pretty thick piece of steel, and so you can't just use an electrical nut in a socket and some silicone lube. You need the screwdriver, but you need to use the electrical nut socket version too to get the thing started on, and you use a 6-inch screwdriver to pry it. Pry it around every 1/8 inch, 1/16 of an inch or so, till holding it down real tight. I happen to get it nailed down right there, so I held it with my thumb and hit it with the screwdriver here, just around there to just put it down over there. Finally, just pop on, and that's it. And this taper down in there, the part that goes like that, has some silicone lube on it, but that thing is still turns around there pretty tight. Not quite as loose as the one that had turned red, the reddish orange from before. So next time we'll start putting her back together, get the action back together, and then we'll take we'll remove the shroud and strip polish and re-blue that. So stick around, it's going to get done. And the first time on YouTube that I've ever seen, you'll see everything. So good Lord willing, the creeks don't rise. We'll see you again.